Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. Primal universe, human territory, Milky Way Holy Land. The mighty endless remote ocean was peaceful without any ripples. A 9-story tower came flying over from the void space far in the distance. It flew all the way over to the upper skies of the boundless remote ocean. Its star tower. Its Milky Way Horde leader's star tower. There was originally a big batch of great beings congregating within Milky Way Holy Land. Other than a few true gods, there were over 100 universe masters present. Undoubtedly, it was easy for such a big group of them to quickly notice the 9-story tower appearing in the upper skies of the boundless remote ocean, which also happened to be one of Luo Feng's signature treasures. Numerous figures teleported over as quickly as they could. It's them. The doors of Star Tower opened, and Luo Feng, garbed in a white robe, walked out. From afar, he looked at the numerous great beings rushing toward him. Behind him, Fire Dome and Hong appeared. Milky Way Horde leader. Teacher. A group of more than 100 great beings had rushed over and bowed with reverence, but they could not conceal the sense of urgency in their eyes. Most of them were high up the social ladder of the human race, so most certainly, they would have heard news about the battle between Luo Feng and the Sector Beast. The Sector Beast was the greatest enemy of the entire universe ocean. It could possibly destroy all the races. How could they not feel a sense of urgency? Luo Feng nodded. Previously, he had recreated Sector Beast Marosa with the help of Whirlpool World. He had directly sucked the blood of Sector Beast into Star Tower, which he had used as the storage vessel for this blood. All along, he had never come into contact with it via his godly power. Then Luo Feng had divided the Sector Beast blood into 16 portions. He feared that, should he be a little careless, he might accidentally annihilate this blood. This time around, beneath the base of Star Tower, was one of those 16 portions. It was one drop of Sector Beast blood. This drop of blood was entirely black in color, and was more beautiful than any diamond. With a diameter of around 1 kilometer, there was no way it could be further cut up. Undoubtedly, this was as small as it could get. Talent technique. Creation. White-robed Luo Feng looked at the drop of black blood suspended in midair. Then, with a move in his mind, Remote Ocean immediately executed the talent technique right away. The surrounding space fell into the enshrouded region of this talent technique. This drop of black blood, that was originally so mysterious, was rapidly being stripped of its mysterious outer layer under the execution of this technique. The internal structure was speedily analyzed by Luo Feng, and there was a continuous indication that this blood was made up of various spots of light, a total of 100,000 light spots. Each spot was then further dissected. These light spots were Raw. A miniature Sector Beast, all black in color, with 2 heads, a pair of hands, and a pair of legs, standing in an upright posture, was roaring. 100,000 light spots. And upon being dissected, many superb, miniature Sector Beasts were found. Some tilted their heads back and roared. Some were bending over. Some were waving their claws. Some were in deep slumber. Some stood aside in silence. An even deeper level of analysis found that every miniature Sector Beast was said to be the most profound Rhinoceros Emperor game, which far exceeded any other Rhinoceros Emperor game Luo Feng had ever comprehended. It was mysterious and unpredictable. At that moment, Remote Ocean Body entered the space of cultivation, within the boat of Mausoleum, and was continuously comprehending and analyzing at top speed under an environment where time was accelerated at a rate of 10,000 times. The life structure diagram from a single drop of Sector Beast blood was much more complex than the life structure diagram of any other true god, or true god of void space Luo Feng had ever encountered. Because of his status in the world of Jin, from the trillion of eras, Luo Feng might certainly have obtained some scales, armor, hair, and blood samples of true gods of void space. He might even have obtained samples from life forms at the eternal true god level. What a pity. The life structure diagram of an eternal true god was simply unfathomable. It exceeded Luo Feng's span of comprehension. Although he was able to understand the life structure diagrams of true gods and true gods of void space, for Luo Feng, who had already attained up to 89,999 times life gene level, the help obtained was not significant. This sector beast was, after all, the noblest life form in all of Universe Ocean. Luckily, it was still in the gestation stage, so Luo Feng could still keep tabs on it. If it went up by one more level, it would have become too profound, and Luo Feng might not have been able to analyze it at all. My talent technique can only analyze up to this level. The life structure diagram of a sector beast is indeed incredibly complex. True gods and true gods of void space are entirely different. Luo Feng's brows were closely knitted as his consciousness operated at an extremely fast pace. At 10,000 times the rate of normal time, he had memorized a tremendous amount of information. Yet, going deeper, he realized that these were two completely different methods. It could be understood this way: true gods of void space, and sector beasts were all fundamentally different in regards to their life structure diagrams. They were all composed of different structures. Previously, Luo Feng had not attained a complete understanding of this. Universe Masters, true gods, and true gods of void space were equivalent to the elements of music, do, re, mi, fa. But the sector beast was more like the binary code of a computer language, which was made up of ones and zeros. All of them were composed of different essential elements. This could be based on one theory: a life form from Universe Ocean was essentially different than a sector beast. If I truly become a true god, then the path I take will be completely different from the average true god, Luo Feng said to himself. How will it help me? Luo Feng was frustrated. Just a while ago, he had somewhat gained a flash of comprehension. 10,000 times acceleration was equivalent to more than 3 days. He had already realized that the life structure diagram of the sector beast represented another vast world. It also represented another route. That route, in turn, represented a future that was just as vast as the world the life structure diagram represented. The thing was, it was very difficult to comprehend something from it. I am really at my wits' end. In order to create a race capable of proliferation, and to study the life structure diagrams, I have already spent up to 1 trillion eras. Yet I am stuck at this final step. Luo Feng shook his head. Now, let's comprehend first and hope that this sector beast blood can finally lead me to the enlightenment of my soul. Luo Feng thought no more and immediately immersed himself in comprehending the diagrams instead. Peace and quiet returned to Universe Ocean. Luo Feng's Mosha body and remote ocean body went on board Star Tower, while his golden horned beast body boarded the vessel and remained stationed in Universe Ocean to stay vigilant at all times while waiting for the sector beast to reappear. The boat of Mausoleum was left in the boundless remote ocean, where Luo Feng had left a body sustained by godly power in the space of cultivation, to carry out comprehending and cultivation. Time passed. The various races were still worried, but in the blink of an eye, 1,000 years passed. The sector beast did not reappear in all that time, thus giving credibility to Luo Feng's claim that at least for a short period of time, the sector beast would not reappear. Virtual universe, in an area in space that solely belonged to Luo Feng. Amidst that lonely void space, a palace was afloat. On the public square before the palace, there was no one but Luo Feng. Clothed in a white robe, Luo Feng sat cross-legged without uttering a single word. He was looking far out into the distance at the numerous stars that filled the dark void space. 2 figures appeared out of thin air. Father! Father! 2 stylish-looking youths walked over. Luo Feng usually forbade ordinary great beings from entering this place, even if they were his disciples. On normal days, not a single one of them was qualified to enter without permission, with the exception of days when Luo Feng wanted to give lectures. As for the other true gods, only during crucial times would they be granted the right to come over. However, there were some who could turn up here anytime they wished, such as Primal Chaos City Leader, True Yang, and his family. Luo Ping, Luo Hai. Luo Feng turned around to look at the spot not far away, where his 2 sons had appeared. The endlessly long period of 1,000,000,000 years had certainly brought many changes to Luo Ping and Luo Hai. They were no longer the same men they had been when they were young. Now, they were more determined in the journeys they wanted to take in life. "Father," Luo Ping said, "we are here because of the sector beast. We are worried and would like to know more from you, Father." "Worried?" Luo Feng took one look at his two sons, then turned away to look far off into the endless void space. Who was not worried? Confronting a sector beast, even he was worried. But the other races had pinned all their hopes on him. And he, who could he pin his hopes on? No one. He had no other great beings to rely on, he only could depend on himself. He was worried that if he could not stop Sector Beast, the entire human race, the pulse of Earth, and his beloved family would perish. Yet, because of this worry, he no longer held on to any fear. I am only allowed to do my best. I have no path for retreat. Luo Feng was convicted. Right down to the final hour, if I have yet to level up to the third stage of the godly power route, then even if my godly body cannot achieve a breakthrough, I will immediately become a true god, gain stronger combat power, and fight this battle with all I've got. He was left with no other choice. Although the best situation would be for him to hit 90,000 times life gene level while having attained the third stage of the godly power route, but in the face of an impending calamity, time was of the essence. There really was not much he could do, but becoming a true god at the second stage of the godly power route was still much better than those who became true gods through the law route. "Father." A voice from the side disrupted Luo Feng's thoughts. Luo Feng turned his head to look at his sons. From the eyes of Luo Ping and Luo Hai, Luo Feng could feel the brothers' worry and unease. "Rest assured." Luo Feng stood up and patted the brothers on their shoulders. "Your father is confident." Both brothers heard their father's words, but still felt uneasy. Both were very aware of the news about the Sector Beast calamity. They were aware that during the calamity this time around, none of the other races would be able to stop it. Throughout the entire universe ocean, the only hope left was their father. Such tremendous stress. How was he going to bear it all? Of course. Luo Feng's hands rested on the brothers' shoulders. "If your father is to fail, then your father and his sons, as well as your mother. Let's just face annihilation together as a family. That way, at least we will all have each other's company even in the face of death." Luo Ping and Luo Hai laughed. Ham. They agreed, nodding their heads vigorously. "Go," Luo Feng said. The two brothers disappeared. There was a trace of a smile in Luo Feng's eyes. His two sons had undergone 1,000,000,000 eras of honing and training their skills, so when it came to facing death, they were unfazed. "If I fail, everything will be annihilated." Various scenes flashed through Luo Feng's mind. His teacher, Tru Yang, Primal Chaos City leader, his good friends, Rong Jun and many others, his parents, his wife, his sons, his younger brother, and the countless heroes who had sacrificed their lives fighting the devouring beast to ensure the survival of the Earthlings. Everything, if he failed, would be reduced to nothingness. In preceding generations, before the 3 reincarnation eras, great beings like Jie Fanzi had long been reduced to nothingness. Perhaps, within the 3 most dangerous lands, there might be words left behind as evidence that these great beings had existed once upon a time. Within the faraway world of Jin, Luo Feng's Earthling original body was within the East Army military camp. However, his godly body had started to collapse and disintegrate. That sector beast has escaped, and it is definitely not going to give up on revenge. This is just the calm before the storm. Regardless of whether I achieve a breakthrough to 90,000 times life gene level or not, the moment the final calamity occurs, I have to become a true god right away. And the moment I cross over to the level of a true god, my various bodies will merge to form my original body. Then, without a doubt, my Earthling original body will have to return. Luo Feng stood within the stone house, yet his godly power was dispelling soundlessly and continuously, returning back to the world of Jin. A short moment later, Luo Feng's Earthling original body was gone. Only the other body sustained by his godly power remained. Now, only my other body sustained by my godly power remains in the world of Jin. Luo Feng's other body remained in the stone house as he shook his head in silence. I will have to put all visitation on hold for now and meet no one at all for the time being. Within Tilted Peak sector of the three most dangerous lands of Universe Ocean, in the core region of Tilted Peak sector, was the Land of Darkness. Black skin and flesh were torn apart. Blood was splattered all over. A hideous head was devouring great mouthfuls as it crazily bit and tore at its prey. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Tearing and biting, Sector Beast Marosa laughed as though it had gone mad. I, Marosa, have turned the tables. I have actually succeeded. Its body was marred by injuries all over, and its second head was so badly torn that only half of it remained, clear indications of the extremely ferocious fights it had been involved in. Battles among sector beasts were a completely different story than combat between a sector beast and a true god. When sector beasts and true gods fought, they could make use of the opposing nature of each other's strengths to exhaust one another's power, or the sector beast could easily split its to escape when the need arose. But when sector beasts fought one another, the situation was different. Their powers were the same. And they jinxed one another by deploying the same means of fighting. For instance, if one sector beast divided itself into 99 different bodies, its opponent could do likewise. There was no way either could escape from the other. Marosa, if you feed on me now, in the future, you will suffer the same fate, being eaten up by another sector beast, said a sector beast with a gaping hole in its chest. It howled in its unwillingness to be subjected to Marosa's brutal and continuous devouring. It, too, only had one head left, which Marosa was presently feasting upon. I was already severely injured before fighting you, but even so, you had such a difficult win that there is no way you can survive through all this. What a fool. Marosa devoured like mad as he cursed and swore. Even though you are severely injured and might still be stronger than I am, when it comes to combat experience and techniques, you are so much more inferior. In the past, Marosa had stood at the peak of the sector beast's nest, second only to Betty. Fighting persistently against 1 billion sector beasts, to reach such a position, Marosa was definitely not short of combat experience. Even if it did lose out a little in its foundation, by relying on its techniques, an experience made up for this shortcoming. Plus, its name alone could instill fear in its opponent even before the fighting began, because opponents thought of the almighty Marosa of before. These factors contributed to it claiming the final victory. Devouring you will allow me to level up to the second stage. Marosa bellowed. Given my combat experience and fighting with other sector beasts at the second stage, my chances of winning are still high. In the future, I can still make my way back to the third stage. The third stage. If your first step is slow, every step thereafter will also be slow. It is fated that you can never be the final king. The other sector beast, being bitten and torn apart, was drained of its power of resistance. This was because the most important vital point within its body had already been swallowed. Without this area, it was like a dry well. The sector beast was completely devoid of combat power. Previously, when I realized I was losing the battle, I had already spread news about you throughout the nest. The dying beast seemed to have gone crazy and went on to say, I said that, you, Marosa, had returned from the outside world, but that you had regressed by one stage. Even if you finish me off, your power might be at the level of a sector beast who has just entered the second stage. You are still extremely weak compared to many others in the nest. Those terrifying fellows who entered the third stage, at the same time as you will most certainly seek you out to kill you. You spread the news. Marosa was slightly taken aback. This was no great shock. It already expected as much. Sector beasts were superior life forms who were born to destroy. If it had lain low and not done anything, the other sector beasts would never have known that it had dropped in levels. Yet, the moment it started attacking, any sector beast it fought against would immediately know the truth. If its opponent had won the fight, the truth about it might not have been disclosed, its opponent might have gone easy on it while basking in glory. Yet the moment its opponent were to lose the fight, the truth about might be disclosed simply as a means of revenge. And the moment news about Marosa dropping levels was made public, Marosa would be such a defenseless target that any sector beast coming out of the nest would dare to attack it. This was also why it had gone crazy, after being forced by Luo Feng to fall to the first stage. Marosa knew that to ascend back to the third stage from the first stage was as difficult as going to heaven. Afraid now, the dying sector beast mocked. Afraid. Marosa continued biting and tearing big mouthfuls, as it continued to say, "It is fated that there will only be one final king. Since I have dropped all the way to the first stage, it is fated that I no longer have the chance to vie for the throne. My future will still be death, eventually. So now, if I have to face death earlier, does it make any difference?" Internally, Marosa was burning with endless flames of fury. Even if it were to die, before dying, it had to take revenge on that human, Luo Feng, who had crushed its hopes. Luo Feng, Marosa whispered this name silently to himself. "You ventured to the outside world. I'm afraid you have yet to learn a certain bit of news." The dying sector beast was keen to grasp hold of any slightest chance to deal Marosa with a blow. "What news?" Marosa looked indifferently at the dying sector beast, then took another big bite of it. "Betty," the dying sector beast smirked. "Betty has already attained the fourth stage. This news came from Beta before it died. Many sector beasts already know. Before Beta died." Marosa was taken aback. No wonder it did not tell me. 1 billion sector beasts had been born. After that, they fought one another. The stronger, more powerful sector beasts naturally established their footing on the peak. Marosa was one of those at the peak. Beta was another. Both Marosa and Beta bore deep hatred for one another. Beta had died, killed and swallowed by Betty. Yet, at the same time, the battle had also allowed Beta to discover that Betty was already a sector beast at the fourth stage. Naturally, it would spread this news before it died, even though it purposely left out some of its arch-enemies from the list of parties to inform. The fourth stage. Marosa froze as if doused with ice water. The first step was slow, and every step after that was also slow. To become the final king, it had to never leave the first group, where it used to be one of the members. The thing was, it had encountered Betty's endless pursuit with murderous intentions, so it had decided to head out to seek its own opportunities, to rapidly ascend up to the pinnacle third stage in order to battle Betty. It had not expected Betty to actually make it to the fourth stage. The final king. No more hope. I am fated to meet my doom. Then, before dying, I must take my revenge on that loathsome human who had crushed all my hopes. Marosa's other head, the one that was injured, had completely recovered. With both heads drooping low, it was crazily tearing and biting the other sector beast, taking big mouthfuls ferociously. "I will transmit the news to Betty," roared the dying sector beast. "You and Betty have been fighting for endless eras. If Betty knows you have become weak, it will definitely come after you. You are only at the second stage, and Betty is at the fourth. Betty's speed far surpasses yours. There is no way you can escape." The dying sector beast roared its intentions, then sniggered. Marosa's other head took another vicious bite, and the dying beast's remaining head was bitten off. One big mouthful followed by another. Marosa devoured and swallowed. The single eye on each of sector beast Marosa's two heads flashed with icy-cold rays of light. "Even if I, Marosa, have to die, I will first make Luo Feng pay the price." At the same time, it was carefully sensing the numerous sector beasts' positions around it, especially those that were more powerful, like Betty. Its main concern was to stay vigilant. The moment the more powerful ones like Betty got closer to it, Marosa would immediately flee as far away as he could. Deep within the sector beast nest, a huge, black figure lay sprawled on a floating desert rock. It suddenly sat upright and looked far off into the distance. Both hideous-looking heads looked in the same direction at the same time. The single eye on each head seemed to have some vague, colorful lights revolving within as they looked coldly into the distance. "Marosa," it mumbled in a hoarse voice. "You have dropped levels and returned to the first stage. From birth, you and I have been fighting and vying against one another. Previously, when you suffered a crushing defeat, you left the nest with grave injuries. Yet you return, and you have regressed to the first stage. A pinnacle first stage, killing a second stage sector beast that was severely injured. It seemed difficult. However, Betty did not find it strange. This was its longtime opponent Marosa. This opponent had once posed a great threat to it. But now, this opponent had painstakingly made its way back up to the second stage, but Betty had already reached the fourth stage. Within the entire sector beast nest, it was currently the one and only being known to have reached the fourth stage. Toward the later stages, the distances between the successive stages were even more exaggerated. How could a life form from Universe Ocean be so powerful? Betty said in its low, hoarse voice. Who could cause Marosa to be reduced to such a sorry state? Could it be the one Dragon Rock and Jinjiao mentioned? The Universe Ocean number 1 Master, Milky Way Horde Leader. As the most powerful sector beast within the sector beast's nest now, Betty was naturally concerned about the happenings in Universe Ocean. Through Jinjiao Emperor and Dragon Rock Ancestral God, it had learned some news, and also, it was aware that Universe Ocean's number 1 Master was Universe Master, Luo Feng. What a pity Jinjiao and Dragon Rock are being ostracized by the various races of Universe Ocean, thought Betty. I can't even find out whether this Milky Way Horde leader has achieved his breakthrough to become a true god or not. I also don't know if this Milky Way has deposed Marosa back to the first stage in his capacity as a Universe Master, or if he did so after he became a true god. Betty pondered. The two possibilities were greatly different from one another. If Luo Feng had become a true god, being able to depose Marosa back to the first stage was nothing impressive, and the threat he posed was not major. But if Luo Feng was merely a Universe Master, yet had been able to depose Marosa back to the first stage, then when Luo Feng became a true god, how formidable would he be? Seems like my powers are still lacking, Betty said to himself. I must increase my power as soon as I can. I need to become more powerful at a much faster rate. I used to focus more on the third stage sector beasts. Now, I need to devour even the second stage sector beasts. If I devour a greater number of second stage sector beasts, they can still equate to one third stage sector beast. Betty's past strategy had been very simple. Whatever threatened it, it would devour. And even if it was unable to devour its opponent, it would inflict severe injuries on it. In this way, Betty was able to keep its position at the top of the pile. The method was stable and practical. It could easily keep tabs on the hundreds of sector beasts that posed the greatest threats to it, but the method was also slow. If it were to devour and attack a tremendous number of second stage sector beasts, it would level up at a much faster rate, but it also meant that he would not be able to acquire enough information about those that threatened it. There were always two sides to any coin. Sector beast Marosa and Luo Feng had fought one another in a battle where Marosa was defeated. This had been the first contact between a sector beast and a life form from Universe Ocean, and had caused much fear and unrest among the various races of Universe Ocean. The various races were aware that when there was first contact, a second encounter was likely to occur soon. Likewise, Marosa, upon being deposed back the first stage, had returned to the sector beast's nest. When the many sector beasts from the nest learned this news, they all had a good shock. It made them realize that they had been mistaken to belittle the various races of the Universe Ocean. They had not expected anyone from Universe Ocean to be so powerful. Also, it drove the sector beasts, who had previously followed a systematic way of fighting and evolving, into a state of frenzy. Gradually, they began to lose their self-restraint. The aged ancestral god stood by the edge of the public square, before the ancestral god palace, and looked far into the distance at the numerous sector beasts' palaces suspended in void space. Milky Way Horde leader might have defeated his first sector beast opponent, which, in turn, fled the scene, he said, but according to the news transmitted to me by the willpower of the origin, the countless sector beasts within their nest are bound to be affected. They will quicken their pace of evolution. There is a high probability that final battle between the sector beast and will likely be moved forward. Yes, the youngest ancestral god said, wearing a solemn and worried look. Milky Way Horde leader is the only hope for our Universe Ocean. If he becomes a true god, we still have hope, but if he has no breakthrough, once the mighty sector beast army charges toward us, or if a super strong sector beast comes here, we will not be able to stop them. Ultimate extermination will be our fate. What is Milky Way Horde leader's problem? Merely a universe master, yet his level of secret technique is so magical. And his power is simply unbelievable. He has the inheritance of the pulse of Duan Dong River, and from the world of Jin, he also acquired the inheritance of the ancient civilization. So why is he still unable to achieve a breakthrough and become a true god? To other great beings, becoming a true god may be quite a challenge. But him? He should have already become one long ago. Doubleface Ancestral God shook his head, sighing. It was a good point. Why had there been no breakthrough for Milky Way Horde leader to become a true god in all this time? Not only were the three ancestral gods were worried, but the various races from the entire universe ocean were worried, too. Back when the inheritance of the ancient civilization had yet to be handed down, becoming a true god was extremely difficult. But since almost all the races got to know about the inheritance of the ancient civilization, the level of difficulty had reduced and was now comparable to becoming a universe master. Luo Feng. In Milky Way Holy Land, Truyang Master stood before the railings at the peak of his own palace, looking out at the boundless remote ocean far, far away. There was worry in his eyes. I believe that now, you must be under tremendous pressure, said Truyang Master, because the various races throughout Universe Ocean will be pinning their hopes on you. At this very moment, you have to hang on. You have no other choice. Truyang was heartbroken. This disciple of his, Luo Feng. To Truyang, this disciple was his greatest pride. Back when Luo Feng first entered Primal Chaos City, because of the War of Talents, he had been taken in by Truyang as a disciple. Truyang had seen this disciple of his grow and mature at every stage of his life. Truyang also understood all that Luo Feng had gone through on Earth. Emerging out of all those miseries, he had never bowed his head to adversity. He would have rather perished with the devouring beast than have given up. Truyang Master knew Luo Feng's past, and had seen how Luo Feng had grown up. He truly cherished Luo Feng as a disciple, and had long treated him like family. Truyang's family had long passed away due to the passage of time. His disciple was just like his family. In Truyang's heart, Luo Feng was nothing short of a son. Maybe Luo Feng was not aware of it, but Truyang indeed felt that way about Luo Feng. Anytime Luo Feng became stronger and grew more powerful, Truyang felt gratified for Luo Feng's success. At this moment, though, there was nothing Truyang could do about the heartache he felt. You have to hang on, face up to this calamity, and fight it, Truyang earnestly prayed. As soon as you can, quickly rise up to become a true god. That is the only way you have a hope of surviving. Truyang could not help wishing that he could go in place of Luo Feng. But he was aware that he would only become a morsel of a snack on the sector beast's plate. He would be of no use at all. Luo Feng, if you have to die, you have to wait till you finish off all the sector beasts. Purple Moon Ancestor was roaring inwardly. Then you may die. You have to become a true god. This should not be difficult for you. East Emperor Ancestor stood on his ancestor tree and looked afar. His gaze penetrated the universe, as he looked in the direction of the primal universe. Even if you choose to take the godly power route, given your talent, you should be able to succeed. You have to become a true god. Divine Eye Master said, greatly looking forward to it. I long not to pledge my allegiance to the sector beast. You have to become a true god. You have to become a true god. The various races of Universe Ocean, including the bugs and demons, were all filled with mutual anticipation. All were looking forward to Luo Feng becoming a true god. Far away, at the three most dangerous lands where the universe boat was, within the space of the black-striped stone pillar. Oh, how tall! Inside a silver vessel, Luo Feng stood in the middle of a hall. His gaze penetrated the cabin walls as he looked outside. He saw the black-striped stone pillar that stood erected, protruding into the clouds. Finally, I am back here again. The black-striped stone pillar, one of the strange objects of Universe Boat. It contained a powerful impact of willpower. The closer one got to it, the more terrifying the impact was. Also, as one got closer to the black-striped stone pillar, the rate of time velocity accelerated. Ordinary universe masters could only get close to regions that were at 1,000 times the rate of time velocity, while Beikai Star Master, who had gotten the closest to that impact of willpower, had managed to reach a region where time velocity was as high as 130,000 times. "Let me see for myself," said Luo Feng, "just how high the acceleration of time this black-striped stone pillar can be." Luo Feng boarded his boat of mausoleum and quickly closed the distance between him and the black-striped stone pillar. 10,000 times, 30,000 times, the boat of mausoleum continued to fly closer, but Luo Feng maintained a peaceful expression. His willpower had already reached the level of an eternal true god, which was much stronger than Beikai Star Master. 100,000 times, 120,000 times, 150,000 times. Space was becoming a little distorted. The time velocity was extremely fast, while the powerful impact of willpower wiped out everything around it in waves. It was as though it sought to destroy everything. Yet Luo Feng seemed as though he was basking in the spring breeze, without a trace of discomfort. 220,000 times, 260,000 times, 290,000 times. 510,000 times, 550,000 times. Luo Feng's expression was very solemn. "I am getting nearer." The boat of mausoleum had already flown extremely close to the black-striped stone pillar. However, the impact of the willpower was now powerful enough to bring a frown to Luo Feng's face. Gradually, the boat of mausoleum started to reduce its speed. Eventually, it came to a halt. Right here. This was Luo Feng's ultimate limit. The nose of the boat of mausoleum was almost touching the black-striped stone pillar. "I want to be in contact with the black-striped stone pillar, but I suppose my willpower must reach the ultimate limit of an eternal true god," Luo Feng whispered. "I am still lacking in that aspect." His willpower might have reached the level of an eternal true god, but he had yet to attain the ultimate limit. The acceleration of time velocity here is approximately 600,000 times. Luo Feng nodded to himself. His purpose in boarding the boat of mausoleum to come to the space of the black-striped stone pillars was to borrow this unique environment, where time was accelerated, to facilitate his cultivation. The threat of the sector beasts had subjected Luo Feng to a tremendous amount of pressure. He needed to maximize the use of every second he had, so this place had come to mind. Right here, I can, once again, get into the space of cultivation. Luo Feng was deep in thought. The space of cultivation was originally able to accommodate an acceleration in time velocity of up to 10,000 times. If the surroundings outside could maintain a time acceleration of 600,000 times, then by superimposing the time accelerations of the two different environments, he could, theoretically, achieve a time acceleration of 6 billion times. Of course, this was impossible. Luo Feng, who had a deep understanding of the ancient civilization, was aware that, in an environment where time acceleration was as high as 6 billion times, if he wanted time acceleration to continue increasing, there would be a drastic increase in difficulty. The impact of willpower here is too strong. I will be affected if I start cultivating here. I shall move back a little. Luo Feng maneuvered the boat of mausoleum into retreating a bit, stopping at a region where time acceleration was at 500,000 times. Then his earthling original body entered the space of cultivation. In the space of cultivation, time acceleration could go up to 10,000 times. "Accelerate to 1,000 times, Luo Feng said, trying his hand at time acceleration. The time velocity in the space of cultivation immediately soared. Thereafter, time acceleration was maintained at 1,000 times. With an external time acceleration of 500,000 times and an internal time acceleration of 1,000 times within the space of cultivation, the overall time acceleration reached 500 million times. Luo Feng was horrified as he looked around him. His surroundings were trembling. Heaven and earth trembled. The entire space of inheritance also trembled, and energy was consumed rapidly. Not good. Luo Feng showed a slight change in expression. Reduce acceleration to 100 times. The time velocity was immediately reduced to 100 times. The surroundings seemed to stabilize, but the energy stored within the space of inheritance was still being consumed rapidly. Still too fast. Reduce to 10 times. Luo Feng was forced to reduce till time acceleration was only at 10 times. Then, instantly, the entire space of inheritance regained its peace and quiet. The space of cultivation can only accommodate an acceleration of 10 times, yet the amount of energy consumed is still so much greater than the normal time region with an acceleration of 10,000 times. Given the energy reserve in the space of inheritance, it should be easy to maintain. After a series of adjustments, Luo Feng finally substantiated that the space of cultivation could allow time acceleration to be maintained at a rate of 20 times. Adding on the 500,000 times from the outside, that equated to 10 million times. The consumption of energy was going to be massive, but, given the accumulated amount within the space of inheritance over countless eras, sustaining it over a long time should be possible. I must cherish every passing second. I hope that I can achieve my breakthrough before the Sector Beast crisis. Luo Feng left a body sustained by godly power in the boat of mausoleum, as his earthling original body departed without further delay. Time passed. Year after year went by. The body sustained by godly power that remained in the region of the black-striped stone pillar was cultivating like crazy in an environment where time acceleration was maintained at 10 million times. Luo Feng's original body, on the other hand, was walking all over the place, seeking inspiration. First, he roamed Tilted Peak sector, where he arrived at the core region. He even ventured further down, where he could catch a glimpse of the land of darkness from afar. Then he proceeded elsewhere. He even found some inheritances left behind by other true gods, who had tried to transcend reincarnation eras. Then he went back to tour around the universe boat again, while looking around very thoroughly. He was so thorough that he managed to discover traces left behind by some ancient great beings that were used to control the universe boat. He also visited flowing countless mountains, where he realized that there were also traces of great beings from the ancient civilization to be found. Lastly, Luo Feng returned to the primal universe, where he walked along the borders and even visited territories belonging to the other clans and races like the bugs, the demons, and the automatons. He also visited the regions where the weaker races resided. He saw the births of life forms, as well as the withering of life forms. He also saw the fighting and annihilation of lives, as well as the destruction of a planet. Regardless of evil or good, everything that transpired between the billions and trillions of races on the universe, Luo Feng simply watched from the standpoint of an onlooker, observing everything from the side without intervening. He observed the budding life forms. He observed the birth of a new planet. He observed the destruction of a single traveler star, and to the destruction of an entire galaxy by a super black hole. Luo Feng firmly believed the primal universe bred billions and trillions of life forms with the supreme path of life gestation. From the countless factors he observed, he had to be able to find the key to opening the door to the third stage godly power. Something that seemed as simple as a baby growing up and withering away with age was something Luo Feng meticulously pondered. He investigated every trace left behind under a time acceleration of 10 million times. Something that seemed as simple as the operation of the celestial realm also fell into Luo Feng's scope of exploration. Silently, Luo Feng's willpower was gradually changing. Earth? Luo Feng stood in outer space, as he looked towards the blue planet far into the distance. Beneath his gaze, time was flowing backward. Earth orbited rapidly around the sun in a counterclockwise direction. Everything on Earth was in continuous change. This is the past. What about the future? Under his gaze, the entire solar system was undergoing a change again, as various scenes were continuously changing. Scenes from the past were very clear when time was reversed, yet when it came to the future Luo Feng witnessed, every scene was still constantly changing. Past events had already happened, so it was impossible to change or reverse any of them. On the other hand, the future was an unknown filled with countless possibilities. Raw. The various scenarios all seemed to be heading toward the same outcome. 30,000 years in the future, the solar system would be destroyed, and all life forms would be annihilated. This would mean the sector beasts had destroyed everything. 60,000 years later, the solar system would be destroyed, and all life forms would be annihilated. 110,000 years later, the solar system would be destroyed, and all life forms would be annihilated. Destroy. Destroy. Still destroying. But there was one outcome to the contrary that was extremely dazzling, in which Earth would become even more developed, and where countless starships would head toward Earth. Even after tens of thousands of eras, or hundreds of millions of eras, Earth would still exist. This outcome represented the fact that Luo Feng had killed the sector beast. Looking at all the possibilities the future had in store, Luo Feng merely observed peacefully. Suddenly, Luo Feng's expression changed. The sun. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. Under his gaze, from the past of the ancient civilization to the future, the Earth was still orbiting around the sun. Even with the various possibilities the future had in store, Earth was still orbiting around the sun, round after round, eternally and without end. It might have seemed repetitive and cumbersome, but it was following a rule that no one could violate. The Earth. Luo Feng's gaze turned to focus on Earth. From the endless past to the future, Earth, being a life planet, was constantly attracting strange life forces from extremely vast distances to breed life. This life force was intangible, but traversing the primal universe whilst looking toward the future, Luo Feng could vaguely discern clues that prompted him to believe that Earth was, indeed, the core of the surrounding region, the place where all life was bred. Earth revolves around the sun. The sun is the core. But for the life gestation system, within the vast region, the Earth is also the core. A celestial system. A life system. All these systems are different, yet they form the perfect combination. Luo Feng's gaze swept through the various scenes, which depicted the path of the countless stars in orbit. Then another scene appeared. It was a scene of his own life structure diagram, which was very complicated, and also, the life structure diagram of the sector beast. Different, yet connected. Beyond space, beyond time, originating from the supreme universe laws, everything would head toward the same ultimate destination. Universe oceans, true gods of void space. Sector beasts. All life forms, even those that were complete opposites, but were bred by universe ocean, were destined for a common endpoint. This video will end here.